Hello everybody, thank you for coming back to the channel and welcome to this new chapter on building the Peanut Bristol Beaufighter. So what I'm going to do now is the two engine cowlings, maybe the engine mounts and everything around that part, right? So this is actually an interesting part because it's not a common part to do basically because not so many. I'm going to show you first of all one that I think I kind of have. So this is kind of the cylinder, not quite round, made out of 1mm balsa, which should be kind of this kind of diameter. It's fitting in there. I need to probably round it out a little bit. I just was holding it with the pegs to glue it together. How I do that is I cut a strip of 1mm balsa to the right size, and the size I got it, I'm not sure where I got it from, here, I think it was from here, yeah. And then I wetted it, wrapped it out something which is round, and this is still wet so I'm not going to take it off, and then basically cut it down to size, and then basically we have this little tube which is kind of round. I hope it will get better with time. I have to shape it. So that's basically the strange part of it, let's say the different part of the building process. Then what I have to do is also then the front part of the engine cowling, which is, I'm going to, let's see if you can see it here down at the bottom. It's basically two parts. I'm not exactly going to follow the instructions because I'm not sure I understand them, but basically it's like an inner ring which is a little bit smaller and with holes, and these I'm making here. I think it's like 5mm thick or something like that. I don't have the wood that I have is, I don't have 5mm, I have 6mm, but not 5mm. In any case, I'm using what I think is 2.5, so I'm going to use 2 rings for each and basically glue them cross grain for a bit of resistance. If it's in the same direction of the grain, then there's more chance that it snaps off. So what I'm doing here, and of course as I've got 2 engines, I've got for the inside of this circle, and this should actually then fit in somewhere here. That's going to go in there. That's going to be 2 circles for the inside. Then is a 1mm ply that I have still to do. That's going to go there, and then there's another circle, which one on each engine, and I'm also going to make it out of this for the outer part, which is a little bit bigger, which is what's going to give it this kind of shape, right? So as I say, it's different kind of shapes and building things up. So I'll be doing these parts, gluing them together, then do the outer rings, do the ply ring, make everything somehow fit. It should be like a plug that I can put in and out if I want to change the motor or to wind up and things like that. And then I've also got to figure out how I'm going to do then for the engine bearing, how it's going to be held. Here I see that this ply circle, actually I'm now interpreting it because this has the hole on one side, so I think this one, yeah, it goes here actually. So I'm going to probably need 1 ply circle for the engine itself so that it takes the heat, let's say, and another one back here so that it works that way. So I'm not sure how I'm going to have to figure it out. So it might need like 2 ply circles, one at the front, one at the back. On the other hand, if I just have one at the front, then the propeller is going to have the tendency, if the rubber is pulling it one way, the propeller is going to have the tendency to point outwards, which I don't want either. I want some kind of tight bearing there. So I've got to figure it out. I might need to put in more, I'm not sure, like to make sure that there's some kind of a bearing. So anyhow, that's all that building up process, and once that's somehow built up, then they go onto the inner panel wing that I finished on the previous chapter. So I'll update you as this goes along. It will take time as usual, but yeah, an interesting part. And an update on the Beaufighter engine cowling. So I've got one pretty much done. Here it is. I'm going to take it apart now, and I'm going to show you also the progress on the other one, so how it's basically coming along. There are several different components. It's basically building a lot of sandwiches out of balsa. So first thing, I think I already showed you, to make the tube out of balsa, basically wrapping it around something, wetting it, waiting for it to dry, then gluing it and try to make it as round as possible, which sometimes it's easier than others. And then let's see if I don't mix things up, because every piece has a place, and it's all thought through actually. It's a little bit, I think I'm going to do a bit of a modification to what I have. So here we have then the tube. At the very front of it comes in the plug, and this is made up of two pieces of 2.5 millimeters glued cross grain, 1 millimeter thick plywood, and then two pieces of again 2.5 millimeter glued cross grain. So that is the plug. Quite a lot of work goes into the plug, but it's also enjoyable because it looks nice and smooth. Now this should actually plug in there quite nicely, and it does. Now still on top of it, what's going to come on in the middle is going to be this small piece, which is just a piece of wood and a pop rivet, the pop part of a pop rivet. I use this kind of as a bearing, just that maybe it's not needed, but then I like having it. Then I'll probably put some kind of a bead or something also for the propeller then to turn off if it ever gets to turn, but just basically building it so that in theory it at least can work. And then inside I have then to make sure that the propeller rod actually turns and doesn't kind of swerves, let's say, to the wrong side, so that it turns kind of, I have this other piece of plywood that I'm going to then put in maybe halfway in through the cowling, so that it's, as I say, so that when the propeller shaft turns, that it turns, let's say, at the right angle, let's say, from that perspective. And then I've got at the end another plug, and this is this piece over here that I don't know if you can see it because I changed the angle of the camera. So this piece over here, that is supposed to help me to glue it then onto the leading edge of the wing inner section. I'm going to have to cut part of the leading edge there, so this actually as the connecting point then to the wing somehow. It's a bit smaller than it is here. Maybe it should have been bigger actually, now that I think of it. Maybe I should make it bigger. Maybe make a new one. I already have two made, and make it bigger, because then that actually glues on the one hand, should glue onto the cowling itself and then also to the leading edge, and maybe that's why this is bigger. So I'll maybe make another one. It's not hard to make. This is 2 millimeters, just because it's what I had around. So that is basically one pretty much done, except what I have to do then again. And then I have the other one which is in progress. I've got the tube kind of there. I've got the plug that I probably need to do again anyhow. I've got the piece of wood of plywood for the middle. I've got the pop rivet. I already lost one, so I don't want to lose more. And then also the front. This is the same piece as this that goes actually here. I don't know if you can see anything actually. So that's still in the gluing process. Maybe it might be dry already. So I would take this off. Then I'll glue this here also, kind of eyeballing it in the middle, and then carve down the plug down to shape. So that's basically then the progress. Now speaking with you, I realize that I should probably make this a little bit bigger, so I'm going to bring down the wood again, make it a little bit bigger that it actually goes on top of that I can glue it to the engine cowling itself, and that then glue onto the leading edge, maybe making a slot in there so that it's somehow fixed in there, and that it has a hole in here for the rubber motor actually to go through. Don't know if you can see it, but it's up here in the right upper corner. This is then the motor coming from the propeller shaft and then goes and connects in there into the center part of the fuselage. So that's basically the progress. I'll come back when I have even more progress on it. So, being a side project, I've left this project aside for like half a year. And I was busy with the Spitfire and things like that. The good thing of the small size is that it fit in this little box. There I've got the propellers that I did last time, and I know this is the middle of the chapter, but I'll show you what I've managed to do. I have done a little bit of progress. So the engine cowlings are pretty much done. I think these come out. I hope they come out. Yeah, they do come out. I can't remember anymore. So these are pretty much ready, the engine cowlings, and they're sitting in the wing position. If you can see it, it's there basically over the plan, the kind of way that it has to look like. Let's push this together. So the engine cowlings are done. Then what else have I done? I also started to do the underside of the cowlings. This is kind of the first step. It's just a two-piece piece, like it's a piece made up of two pieces. There's the model to trace out here, it's called the lower fairing, and I think on the previous model I just left it like this because I didn't understand what had to be done. And then earlier today I realized what I have to do. I have to squeeze it in and try to get it into this shape, which was very hard, basically, because I had to be holding it. I had to wet it, of course, and then hold it, glue it, hold it. Then this other glue, because it got wet, it started to come undone, so it's a little bit, it's not as round as I wanted to do it. I did make it round using a glue stick, so basically this fits over the glue stick, and then tying it down with the rubber bands that you see. So then the next step is going to be to try to do the same thing on this without losing this piece, and getting it a little bit to that shape, which should emulate this somehow, which I think it does actually. The drawing is quite good. I suppose Towner used card first to model it, and then it works. Here it's a little bit squished because I was using one of these clamps. Maybe I have to use one that's a bit weaker. And I was also using this other clamp, which is huge, of course. It's a small one for wood, but to keep this from basically opening up and spoiling the whole thing. So the next activity is going to be this. It needs patience, so it might not be today, it might be tomorrow. Other pieces that I've done also, these are the backing pieces that also come, if you see it, I don't know if you can see it, it comes in here basically, and it's supposed to hold also, if it comes in there, you probably need to sand it down a little bit, to holding also the landing gear, which I've also been working on. So I've got two legs of landing gear, one better than the other, let's face it. I also carved the wheels, which I enjoyed doing, as with a new approach to me, which is basically cut out a piece of balsa, somehow screw it onto the end of the handrail, spin it on sandpaper and get the shape. So I think it's okay. So it's acceptable for me, I'm going to say it like that, and then it's going to be then the assembly. So that is then pieces for the assembly, and I think that is pretty much it, just to put this together, but maybe I'll do that then offline. That is pretty much it for the engine mounts, and then the next step is going to be to do the tail plane and the fin. So we have it here, tail plane and fin. And in between, if I think I'm going to need to, I might need to put the side project aside, let's say it like that, or maybe not. I might actually continue because I'm starting to enjoy it again. So anyhow, one thing also I want to call out, one of you, you know who you are, you have finished this project already, you've put the picture out on AutoZone, so really thank you very much for that, because the project with the Towner models is to see if I can get as many of them done in a way that they look good. And of course you got ahead of me, and it looks better than I will ever make it look, so really thank you for that. And I encourage anybody to take another Towner plan and build it, take a picture, send it to AutoZone that we can all see them. In any case, thank you everybody very much for watching and following along on this strange chapter split into half-year work, and I'll see you next time.